Hello YouTube, it's Sikamikanico here from Xbox Era, and I'm going to talk about XCloud. Now, I was lucky enough to be invited into the public beta for XCloud, but I was in the US at the time, so I actually ended up going out and buying a pad that I didn't need. Such was my desire to play more video games. Now, I'm going to share my experiences. I've tried this on hotel Wi-Fi in the US, I've tried this on Wi-Fi in my home environment, and I've also tried it on my mobile data package here in the UK. All slightly different experiences, but let me walk you through how it works and show you what I've found so far. Let's dive in. Okay, so before we get started, what is xCloud? Basically, this is Microsoft's answer to PlayStation Now or Google Stadia. Native console quality games streamed directly to your device. There are actually two versions of this technology. The first is something that's very similar to what's been offered to PlayStation gamers for years, which is called Remote Play. Xbox's console streaming allows gamers to stream any game they own from their home console directly to their device of choice, with their home console effectively acting as their personal xCloud server. It's worth noting that this is free. The other version of this tech is what we're playing with today. Games streaming from the Xbox One server technology in Azure data centers directly to my device at 1080p and 60 FPS to boot, which is pretty cool. The Xbox team have put together a handy guide, so let's go over it, what you need besides the actual invitation to try it. First off, you need an Android handset. Sorry iPhone users, there's no news for you at this point, but I would imagine Apple probably have something to do with the delay. A Bluetooth controller, a 5GHz Wi-Fi connection, or a reliable data connection, be it 4G or 5G, and lastly, you'll need the Xbox Game Streaming app. Once you've got all that, pair your Bluetooth controller with your phone and load up the app, signing in with your Xbox account. Then you're good to go. Okay, so here I am with my pad and my phone. I'm using a Samsung Galaxy S10 Plus, and all I need to do is load up the streaming app, he says. And you can see here that the UI is, I think, kind of maybe indicative of what we're going to see with the new dashboard, whatever it may become for Project Scarlet. It's definitely more flat and more streamlined, very reminiscent of the current Xbox PC app for Game Pass. Now the beta gives you 4 choices at the moment. We've got Gears 5, Halo 5, Killer Instinct and Sea of Thieves, and I think this really helps point to best use cases for this kind of technology. Really responsive games that require high input and timing, I feel are worse off on xCloud, but games like Sea of Thieves I found to be thoroughly enjoyable. But for the purpose of this test, I'm going to just boot up Halo 5 here. Now you can see that the pad works perfectly with the app. It's nice that it kind of just is quite seamless once you've loaded it up. Now we can see here it's actually loaded into my previous version as I was set up recording on this, which is interesting. So you can see that the instance that was live before I started recording this was left up. That's not something I'd noticed before, so it definitely seems to count that the pad's been unplugged, and I presume the instance will sit there for 15 minutes in idle before it turns off. Now the game streams at 1080p, 60 FPS from what I can feel, but there are momentary hiccups and judders, but you can kind of get a feel for the latency. One thing that's weird is it feels to me like hitting the melee button is somewhat delayed, but the trigger is perfect. It just genuinely does surprise me how good it is. Whether I would want to play games like this all the time, that's another matter entirely. So Halo 5, I mean, it came out, 2015. I think it looks great on this little screen, but the UI, etc., definitely suffers. There's lots of teeny weeny eye straino vision moments going on here where you can't quite make up any of the words because it's on such a small screen. I think for any future xCloud endeavours on my part, I'd be looking to utilise something with a little larger of an input, like a tablet. But you know, if you're gaming on the go, and indeed I was in the US last week. I went out to Target because I'd forgot my pad, but weirdly had my clip with me. I went out and bought this pad just so I could test it on hotel Wi-Fi, of all things. But you know, the fact that this technology exists, the fact that this, in my opinion, is likely, and you know, we have had no confirmation on this, and there's been lots of discussion about how xCloud is going to be priced. But I think we need to just look at what Google Stadia is doing here. They're offering a free version at 1080p 60 FPS later down the line. Now, I would imagine that xCloud is going to be bundled into Game Pass subscriptions at some point at launch, perhaps with the reveal of the next console. What I also think is that Microsoft are on the right track here. This is an additive experience. It is not a replacement for gaming, and I'm all for the technology working well, but I wouldn't want to play games like this all the time. I mean, even simple things. I've been playing Halo for a long time. Simple things like knocking a Jackal's shield out and then landing that headshot are surprisingly fiddly on this, comparatively to how it might be played natively. And it's only a minor thing, but you can feel it. You can feel the difference. Now, I'm actually recording the footage of the gameplay that I'm playing at the moment natively. So I'll post the native footage directly into the YouTube video as well, so that you guys can get a good idea of the screen quality and capture that you're looking at. But I think what's weird most of all is your body acclimates to this surprisingly quickly. Oh god, suicide grunt. The more that you play, the more you find yourself your brain takes into account the latency and the weirdness and the non-nativeness of this, and it kind of suddenly starts working. So I thought I was in range for a lunch and I wasn't. You can see some of the hitches there on Wi-Fi. Now, bear in mind I am on Wi-Fi, so you can really see the difference. What I'm curious about here is if I turn Wi-Fi off, and I'll just make sure my character's safe before I do. If I was to turn Wi-Fi off here, let's see if it tries to reconnect. Right, so now we're playing off Wi-Fi, which is fascinating to me. Now you can see immediately it's a lot more stuttered in its presentation. It's doing its very best. Now I'm only playing on a 4G connection, and I live about 45 minutes outside of London, so you can really, it's still playable, but you can really feel the difference. But it's fascinating to me that even then, I mean, look at that. Can you see that? I tried to make a jump and it missed the... You can hear the audio bugs and all sorts of things here. Hello, boys. God, it does feel awful to play. So at this point, you know, this is how I wouldn't want to play it. Now, whether this is any different on 5G, and unfortunately I don't have access to a 5G connection, so I can't really say. But yeah, this is not desirable. Let's see if we can turn Wi-Fi back on mid-play here. And you can see that screen wipe effect as the connection catches up. There it goes. So the Wi-Fi is connected. It's lost connection to my pad. We're back in, and you can really feel the difference. And hopefully, I think you guys can equally see the difference in terms of presentation and smoothness. So, you know, does xCloud work for super responsive games like first-person shooters and fighters? Yes. Is it the best way to play? Oh, look at that. Probably not. And these are the kind of things, I mean, yes, you know, it's a beta, but these are the kind of things that I think are important to bear in mind as we kind of get used to this technology as an option. You know, but it's pretty cool. It's pretty cool that this just works. Now, what's interesting is at the moment on Android, if I was to press the guide button, I'd go straight back to sort of my home page on my phone. So what you have to do to kind of quit out at the moment is you can either press that to bring up your guide and see, you can start a party as you would normally on the console, and you can use your Bluetooth headset that you'd normally have for your phone or your wired headphones to speak in an Xbox Live party. But equally, you can invite people in for multiplayer sessions. And you've got here a feedback section and the ability to quit the game. Now, if I quit the game, it'll ask me if I want to quit. I can use the pad and I'm straight back in. And at the moment, the beta is really capturing what they want us to say in terms of feedback. So I actually think that was a pretty good stream, but I still found the input responsiveness not as great. And if I was to rate gameplay, I'd probably be about the same. So, you know, you can even go more depth in. You can put a sentence in or list out specific problems that you've had. If we load up a slightly more sedate experience like Sea of Thieves, I think this is the kind of game where XCloud becomes more of a, not just a value add-on, it becomes maybe the way that you'd want to play. And I can think of a number of Microsoft IPs that would massively benefit from this kind of technology and this fidelity. Things like Viva Pinata, which I think, you know, we discussed it on the podcast earlier this week, was a game way before its time. You think about the mobile sort of world now of gaming, that would have gone down rather well. Games like Sea of Thieves, admittedly they're a massive time sink, but the fact that you could play a game like this at full fidelity with a pad and play with other people, and that latency wouldn't really be a detriment to your experience unless you're in a really hardcore PvP kind of scenario. But even against console players, I think someone on XCloud could probably hold their own. So let's just see what the application is doing here. It's loading the game. So we can see here, you know, even if it is on its own app, it's still definitely using standard Xbox One hardware. Still has to go through that load time, still has to sign up and log in and run through loading times. It doesn't feel as fluid as a natively designed mobile game would. What's Scarlet going to look like for XCloud? That's a good question. If we see this similar technology, and you know, where we have consoles put into racks, which are then put into servers, you've got multiple sort of SoCs on a bed in a rack. The possibilities then become more tantalizing because you eliminate all the load times that we have to suffer from this gen. But it's certainly a fascinating experience. So there you go. This is Project XCloud. I hope you've enjoyed this quick look into some of the features that Xbox gamers have got coming to them down an internet pipe someday soon. For those that are in the beta, enjoy your time while it lasts. I'm not sure if it's going to stay live up until release, but I do hope that they add more games onto the service. I'm particularly intrigued to see what Forza Horizon 4 would end up feeling like, because obviously we have seen internal tests of that game being played at previous XCloud demos. But for now, I'll sign off. So thanks for watching, and make sure you stick to Xbox Era for any more Xbox news. See you later.